5 years old. Could have been
Okay.
6, but I think I was 5 because my little sister looks 3 in that picture. So I'll say 5.
So,
Well, it was kind of just the thing that our mom would take us on these trips, and it would be kind of like a vacation for us because we didn't always get out a lot and do those things. And we lived like in the inner city, so we were either at school or at home most of the time. So when we got to take those trips, it was like taking a vacation, and we'd be out in the sun. And they call it the Windy City, but we didn't always experience the wind unless we had balloons that we got from the zoo, and they would get blown away because we couldn't hold on to them. That had happened to me a couple times, but that particular day we were playing badminton, and that's still one of my favorite games to play today because we would have to learn how to hit the birdie with the racket, and it just seemed so difficult, for us to do, but it ended up actually being a real simple game, and it was really enjoyable, those trips. And going to the zoo was like, that was like my dream world because I love animals, you know how much I love them. And then we would go to the aquarium and see the sea creatures. And so it was just like being able to explore without having to actually go out and go on an expedition. Yeah, it was one of the greatest influences because it's what led me into wanting to read and study animals, my love of animals, my love of just being an explorer and wanting to learn more about things, and definitely my love of the Mariana Trench because that's one place I would love to explore someday.
to the beach.
Part of it is from memory, but then a lot of times you don't always think about it until you see it again. And I do remember that outfit I was wearing and the hairstyle. Yeah, I remember having to wear that a couple times. And that's what we did as kids. We had to wear the ponytails and, the little sun outfits that we wore. So I definitely remember those times, and they were very enjoyable. It's part of why I loved Chicago, the city, so much when we actually got to see it and enjoy the things that it had to offer. So that was definitely a memory, and it was things that I held on to because it's what led to the things that I wanted to do as an adult. Well, we went there with our family because we were 5 kids and, our 2 parents, and it would always just be the 5 of us. We kind of always did stick together as kids, so we didn't really have to worry about having anybody else to play with because there were so many of us. And, there was 2 parents, so you had one that would hold the baby while the other took the picture. And the good things though that I remember about those times is that we did get to at least have them. And there's certain things that you get as a child that can stick with you, and that was something that had a positive effect on me. And that's why it became, a part of just who I was. I'm always talking about animals. I'm always, reading because we had libraries we would go to as well, and the museums, of course. So that's why those things were just huge staples in my life when I got to experience those things. Because if I didn't get to experience them, I would have never known that I could, embark on things like that. So it really just became a part of how I developed, in my own thought process and my own things that I wanted to go on adventure. So my curiosity and just my love of just wanting to learn about the environment and the world that I live in, because that's really what you learn when you get to experience things like that. We moved to Chicago right after I was born, because I was born in Louisiana, but like right after we moved to Chicago. So I was there for the first 10 years of my life, and then we came up here when I was 10 years old. So I remember going to school out there, kindergarten, first grade, second grade, third grade, and then when I got to fourth grade, we came here. So yeah, I haven't been back, but I would love to go back. I do plan on going to visit there someday because I do want to see what it's like now that I'm an adult. Because I remember going to the museum, and as a child, there was this exhibit that had this huge bear in it, and he just looked so huge. Me as a child, it was the biggest thing I thought I'd ever seen. But I'm pretty sure if I went back and saw him now, he probably wouldn't be that big to me. And even on the beach, when we would go and we'd be playing under the trees, as children, we'd look up and see things and didn't recognize them. You're like, what's that? What's that? And you know, now as an adult, I'd probably go see those things and know what they are. And it wouldn't be so surprising to me, but it would still be thrilling to me because that's what it was. It was the biggest deal because it meant we got to go and experience life. That's kind of what that was. And when I wasn't out doing those things, we would be at home, and I'd still be in a book. I would always be reading a book at home. That was one of the things I just did as a kid, because I could just pick up a book and just read it. And then to be able to go outside and see the trees that I read about, you know, to see the sand on the beach that I read about, to see the libraries that I read about in the books and where I got the books from. So it was nice to be able to actually get a taste of that. And so that was just so important because experience is important. You know, there are certain experiences you really should just get to have, especially as a child, because that's how you're developing at that point, and you get to kind of peek into what you'll be able to do as an adult. That's why it stayed with me all that time. So I really we all enjoyed being able to go do that, because at the end of the day, when our parents say it's time to go home, some of us were crying and didn't want to go home. You know, we wanted to stay out there, and every time we had to go back home, it's you know, but we still got to go back out again. So we still got to have those times where we would go and experience those things. And that's one of the things that really stuck with me about Chicago, and that's why it's a city I'll always love too. Yeah. We wore sandals. We didn't get to take off our sandals, so we get sand in the sandals. And for us as little girls, you know, we'd be feeling the wind blowing in our hair and stuff, and we would always lose our barrettes, and you'd get in trouble if you did that. So you couldn't play around too much, and at least make sure you kept yourself together. But it was, and just, you know, smelling the fresh air that did blow in from the sea, and being able to see the water, you know, the way it had that sparkle on it when the sun would hit it. So it would be really nice. And even during the winter, we'd have nice winters too. But I don't remember going out to the water during the winter like that. But I remember being able to still go outside and play in the snow. And that was one of our most favorite things too. So yeah, being able to experience that and take that in, it's a good way to it helps refresh your memory too, because you can always see a sunrise that may look like that. You can see water, it'll remind me of that. And the aquarium, of course, was great. You know, that was like my first experience seeing sea creatures like that up close. It was the first experience for all of us. So that's something like you get a sense of feeling this. It wasn't so much fear, but it was definitely awe, like, whoa, what is that? But it does look kind of freaky. It was very foreign and strange, but I still had that curiosity to where I wasn't scared. I was more intrigued. So we would go once in a while. It wasn't like every week, but we would do it, you know, good enough, because I remember maybe going possibly once a month at times, but it was things that we did, you know, we would do them kind of sporadically, but we would definitely do them. And it would always be all of us, you know, and we would go to the mall sometimes, and that I think we did more often. I remember catching the buses, the city buses, and it was even more enjoyable to do that back then too. It was a different experience catching the buses back then than it is now. But just being able to see the city too, and the fast pace of it. So those were things we did get to see often, because we still went out to school, and we kind of would walk to school and still get to see certain things in our local environment, which were still some nice things, but you know, it wasn't as captivating as being able to be out there by the water or at the zoo or at the museums and in the libraries.
Wow.
Yeah. That was the first thing I did when my mom sent it to me on the phone. I just started laughing. Yeah. Can't help but when you look back and see when you were enjoying yourself as a kid, you got to be a kid in that moment, and it was just a nice memory. So I'm glad. I was happy to see it, because I was happy to see me and my 3 sisters, you know, being us 4 girls, and that game we still do play. That's the thing about that badminton game. Me and my younger sister, like, That's like our favorite game to play when we get out and we're able to get together and play that game. Yeah, that's where it all started. There was school every day or at home every day. Not even too much of playing outside most of the time, but being able to do things like that, it's like you're taking a vacation where you're out away from your routine, doing something that you love and enjoy and experiencing something new and something that's going to stay with you. And like I said, something that had an impact on me as to what I wanted to do when I grew up. I'm like, right now I'm a kid and I have to be at home and do what my parents say, but being able to get out and see things like that let me know that once I grow up, I know what I want to do, so I can go and be able to experience those kind of things more on a regular basis instead of just like sporadically, and then that way it feels like a vacation, because a vacation is something you take every once in a while, not on a daily thing. So now as an adult, I daily get to go and explore things like that because now I know where to find them, and I have a job where I'm able to even engage in reading and helping kids to read and working in a school that is just the best school ever, and being able to be around people who are positive in a building and an educational environment, a learning environment, a safe environment and a supportive environment and an encouraging one, and as well as being able to have the freedom to know that as an adult now I can just go to a park, I can go to the zoo, I can go out to Puget Sound, or I can go over to Point Defiance and see those things, go to the Rose Gardens. And it still kind of feels like a little bit of a vacation because I still get in there and just kind of daydream and imagine a world where I can just do that every day, because I still can't do it every day, but I get to do it more often than just sporadically. I work for the Auburn School District as a library paraeducator for ages, I'd say 3 to possibly 12 if they turn 12 in fifth grade. And I love working with kids.